Hello, everyone. My name is Morgan Meadows, and I'm a school counselor here at Freeman. I am giving the Underclass parent presentation for the college application process tonight. And so this is the virtual edition for anyone who is unable to attend or uncomfortable doing so in the current climate. Everything that I cover in this presentation is exactly the same that's going to be covered tonight. So you're definitely not missing out on anything. If you have questions at any point, you're always welcome to email myself or your student school counselor. We're just going to be covering what to be doing as a 9th through 11th grader in order to prepare for college exploration, applications, all that sort of stuff. So I hope you find this informative. The first thing that we are going to be doing in the beginning of the presentation is called the Great Sorting Game, and our parents really seem to love this. So I am going to show a variety of fake students, hypothetical students, and all are applying to a college. They are going to have different GPAs, and the different factors are going to be involved throughout this game to see who may or may not be accepted. So go ahead and pick who you want to role play as during this game and see where you end up at the end. So these are our 9 students that we are going to be following in this admissions process to a university. If you have taken an exceptionally strong academic program, move forward 2. So our yellow student with a 3.4 GPA and our purple student with a 3.8 GPA both moved forward 2 slots as indicated by the asterisk above them. The academic program that a student enrolls in while they are in high school is extremely important to a college. They want to see that a student can take higher level courses, that they're going to be successful in those courses, that they're willing to challenge themselves and not just get easy A's. This is all going to be indicative of whether or not they think that student is also going to be successful at their school. Now, an exceptionally strong academic program is also taken within the context of the high school itself. So anytime a student applies to a college, a school profile for the high school is also sent with their transcript so that a college can understand where a student is coming from. This is done so that a student who attends a high school that only has 3 AP classes, if they take all 3, they have maximized the rigor at their school. Whereas at Freeman, we have much more than 3 AP classes, so that would be not considered as maximized within the school context. So a student who enrolls in classes at Freeman it's not going to be held against them if they enroll in something that's offered somewhere else that we don't have. So colleges also understand that not every school has all of the same courses that they offer, and so they want to know what our honors classes are, what our AP classes are, what our electives are. They learn a lot about the context of the school through that profile so that they understand where a student is coming from and therefore how that impacted their transcript. If you play the oboe or the viola, move forward 1. So our green student and our blue student both move forward 1 slot. Colleges are looking for ways to round out their student body and try to find ways that a student could positively impact their school. So a student who plays something a little bit more unusual like the oboe or the viola may indicate that they'd be interested in joining the pep band, that they would be involved in things on campus related to music. And so colleges are looking at how would a student coming to their school make that school better. So something a little bit unique that a student could bring to that school, like playing an instrument, can sometimes help in an application. If you clearly stated that this was your first choice college by making an early decision commitment, move forward 2. So early decision is different from early action. Early decision, you can only apply early decision to 1 school, and that is a binding commitment that if you are accepted into that school, you are enrolling 100%, and you will revoke your applications from any other school you apply to. This is a really great way to show a college that you are absolutely committed to attending there if that is your first choice schools and you know that that is where you want to go no matter what. This can be a great way to demonstrate that to a college, and they know if they accept you, they are automatically enrolling you, getting your deposit, and you are going to be a student there. So if it's a very important school to you, early decision can be a great way for you to demonstrate that and increase your chances of getting in because the college knows they have a guaranteed enrollment. If your intended major is psych or pre-med, move backwards 1. So psychology, pre-med, these are pretty popular majors for freshman applicants. And it's not necessarily a detriment to admission, but it doesn't distinguish them from other students applying either. So we always want a student to be honest. As a psych major, I'm never going to say don't major in psychology or don't say you're majoring in psychology, but just understand that there are multiple facets to an application, and it's perfectly fine if you're applying to something that's popular. Just know that that's also not going to be necessarily working in your favor like other aspects of your application might be. If your intended major is Greek, for example, move forward too. So many selective colleges have some majors that are not as popular, and they're always looking to fill them. They want to keep all of their academic programs alive. So again, this is all generalities. Absolutely apply. Be honest. Whatever your major is, say that. Just know that there's a lot going into these applications. Move back to if you do not know any of your teachers well and had trouble finding someone to write your college recommendation. So our student with a 3.7 GPA just had to move back 2 spaces. This is really important because those college recommendations, those letters are extremely important. They give context to a student, especially for our very competitive schools. Everyone's applying with high grades. Everyone has a high GPA. So the context outside of the academics is also extremely important to colleges. Having positive relationships with teachers and your school counselor can be incredibly helpful to rounding out your application. If, as you typed your college essay, you forgot to change the name of the college you were applying to, move back 4. Virginia Tech does not want to see an essay about how much you want to go to UVA. As a student is typing essays and filling things out, please make sure that what they're submitting is not school specific unless they are just applying or submitting that document to that one school. Proofread, proofread, proofread. This just shows an attention to detail, and it's going to help that school know that you have it together and you can handle college. So please make sure when a student is submitting documents that if it is not school specific, or if it is, you have changed it to the correct school when it is submitted. If you are a legacy, jump forward 2. Now, again, this is actually changing in a lot of schools. Several in the last couple of years have said they no longer recognize legacy status. Some, however, do, and this can be helpful for a student who maybe doesn't have quite the grades that they would want to attend the school, or maybe they just, it's one of their top choices because all of their family have gone there. So sometimes being a legacy, depending on the college, can be helpful. Move back 1 if you did not write the optional essay for your college application. If there is anything listed as optional in a college application, it is not optional. Submit, submit, submit. Everything you can do to show that you are willing to work and put forth the effort to attend this school is going to help. It's also going to give them an even better understanding of who you are and what you might bring to that school. So that demonstrated interest, that willingness to go to the next level. If it's optional, do not consider it optional. Please submit whatever it is. Move back 1 if the topic of your college essay was what I learned from playing sports. Now, there are obviously going to be scenarios in which this essay topic could be perfectly viable and extremely captivating and really catch those admissions officers' eye. However, this is a very common title and subject matter. So please make sure that your student is writing about something that is honest and personal to them. Maybe it is sports, and they can spin that in a way that is appropriate and will be great for their application. But don't necessarily take the easy way out either. Students need to be finding a college essay that's going to show who they are. What is special about them? What would they bring to that college campus that college is going to want? What was your student a part of that was better because they were a part of it, and why? That's what colleges are really looking for. Similarly, if you wrote the essay of the year, the one that was passed around the entire admissions office because it was so remarkable, move forward 3. So that essay, and we're going to talk about the different pieces of an application a little bit later, that essay can have a huge impact if it is done well. If you plagiarized an AP US history paper and you got caught, sit down, you are out. So the student who had a 3.8 GPA is now out of the game. So this is obviously a little drastic and dramatic, and it's not at all necessarily true that if you plagiarize a US history paper that you're going to be removed from all college admissions. However, it can be a huge factor. Some colleges will ask if you have ever been caught for an honor violation, or targeted in any way. If this is something that your student has experienced, then you're just going to work with your counselor to figure out the best way to approach that in the college admissions process. But many colleges do learn about these things, and so you want to make sure that your student is making the best decisions possible, not just for the grade that they're currently trying to get, but for their long-term outcomes as well. If you will be the first in your family to attend college, move forward 2 spots. Some colleges and universities, many of them, reward students who have overcome factors that make them less likely to pursue that college application. Another example is if English is your second language. These things can show that you're able to overcome adversity, or you know that when things are challenging, you know how to respond to them and still be successful. And so this can help in your college application. If you participated in an enriching summer program between your junior and senior year, move forward 2. Now, again, colleges want to see what you're going to be doing on their campus. So if you got involved in something over the summer and it had an impact on you, or you had an impact on that because you were there, this is going to be really helpful for your application. Colleges want to see that. So obviously right now, a lot of programs are amended or altered because of COVID. And so just know that all students are facing that same difficulty. And so students may have fewer volunteer hours or summer program opportunities for the last couple of years. You're being compared to your peers, but we're all in the same situation. So don't stress about this too much. -3 if you have not participated in any extracurricular activities. Again, colleges want to see what you are going to be doing on their campus. If you show up to class, you get great grades, you have a 4.0, that's awesome. But if then you go home and you don't do anything else, and not just at school, but anything else in general, that's not going to speak quite as well in your college application. A student does not need to be involved at their high school in order for it to be important or beneficial for their college applications. You could be involved in a dance program in the community, very involved in your religious institution, summer camps, any extracurricular can be just anything outside of school that shows you have passions, you're going to be involved, you want to make a positive change or do something that has, some sort of value or positive contribution to your life. Obviously, we would love to have students be involved in Freeman, but if there's something that you really love to do that's not at Freeman, that's also perfectly fine. If you have participated in a significant community service project, move forward 1. So again, you are going to be a positive impact on your community, and you have already demonstrated this in high school. So the likelihood that you're going to bring this mentality to college is very high. Colleges like seeing that. +2 if you're an Eagle Scout. Same concept. You're going to be involved in community service. We have been developing some leadership goals. An Eagle Scout, that Eagle Scout project is a huge project. And so being able to complete that obviously shows that you have a lot of skills and commitment to work towards a goal that colleges like to see. So that can be really helpful. +2, move forward 2 if you're a varsity athlete, and then an additional 1 more if you also took second place at regionals in your sport. So again, that community involvement, that working with a team, being successful when working with a team. Varsity athletes they've been doing this for several years. They are willing to work hard. They're going to be doing practice outside of school. And so colleges like to see that grit, that determination, working towards a goal. Academics are important. And if you're also able to do other things outside of academics and be successful there as well, that's going to help a lot. -3 if you get a D in an academic course at the end of your junior year. Now, obviously, we did have a virtual year last year for the most part, and that has impacted a lot of students' grades. Part of what's important about those recommendation letters is we're able to give context about things. So also, if your student got a D at the end of an academic course year because a significant family member died and that was really difficult, that's the kind of context we can give if there's a valid or unusual explanation for this grade. If there's not, then we do the best we can. One class is never going to ruin an entire transcript or an entire admissions, but it can have a significant impact. So we just want to make sure we can at least explain it in some recommendation letters if possible. Move forward 1 if you came to the college information session and introduced yourself to the college representative. And in the case of the student who got a D, explained that extenuating circumstances. Some colleges do track what they call demonstrated interest. So this is going to information sessions and filling out the card saying you were there, going to an official school tour, doing an interview with the admissions office if that's something that they offer. Any way that you can show that you are genuinely interested in that school and you are going to do the work and put forth the effort to show that. And then with this student who got a D, talking to the college admissions rep about it. Some schools do not track demonstrated interest, and this won't have a huge impact, but some definitely do. But any chance you get to explain something that's in your application that maybe might be not quite to the level you would want it to be is always going to be helpful. If you're a resident of Idaho, move forward 3 spots. Now, this is kind of just a lighthearted way to demonstrate that there's a lot of random factors that can also go into an admissions decision. Colleges are seeking all kinds of diversity, that well-rounded population. And if there's a small number of students applying from a geographic location, that could be an advantage. Every school is different, and it's never going to be a significant impact. There's so much that goes into a college application. Move back 1 if you never gave your counselor any personal information for use in writing your college recommendation. I cannot express how frustrating it is when a student wants us to write a letter of recommendation and then gives us so little to work with. Now, obviously, we meet with our students routinely and we have our own interactions with them to draw on, but I do have 380 students, so it's hard for me to remember which sports every student did which year and how well they did and what clubs they were in each year. So we do request an information sheet from the student. It's a Google form. It's pretty long, and I'm very blatant with my students. And I say the more effort you put into filling this out, the more effort I can put into your recommendation letter. But a student who fills that out in about 20 minutes and just puts a 1-line answer to every question makes it very difficult for me to write that letter. Colleges really do put a lot of weight into your college recommendation letters, especially from your school counselor. So if you are not giving them the material they need to write as great a letter about you as possible, it's going to reflect on your application. It's going to be hard for them to do so. So please make sure that if your school counselor is asking for specific things, you are taking the time to do them and turn them in on time. Move all the way to the front and stay there. If your last name is Rockefeller, the library name is Rockefeller, and it is not a coincidence. Now, obviously, this is a little drastic. That's never going to be a sole admissions decision for any student. But again, there just are a lot of factors that go into college admissions. Sometimes they're not always fair. We just do the best we can. This is a great reminder that your self-worth and how good of a student somebody is not reflective in college admissions. There are great students who are denied access to great schools every year, and it is not a comment on that student or what they could or should have done differently. There are a lot of things that go into this, and so the most important message of all of this is that there are a lot of really great schools, and if your student is really interested in attending college, they will find a best fit. They will. And so just doing your best and following all the instructions and guidelines is really all a student can do. Now, this is the end of our sorting game. So our students with our variety of GPAs have obviously been shuffled around a lot. So this is a great way to demonstrate that a lot goes in this admissions decision, and a student, high grades and a high GPA can certainly be helpful in college admissions, but there's a lot of other factors going into it. So doing the best you can is really all you can do. Now, When students are preparing for their college search, there are several things they really want to be considering. Their values, interests, and skills are really important. So when we often talk to students, what do you want to do after high school? What job do you want to have? We really ask them about, what are you interested in? What do you like doing? What's your favorite class? But there's a lot that goes into college and career counseling. What are the students' values? Do they want to have, hard start and stop times for their workday? They want to be able to leave and not do any work in the evening. If that's important to them in their structure of life, working in education is probably not the best fit for them. But there's, values is an incredibly important aspect of career counseling, as are skills. What are you good at? That has a huge impact. So we want students to not just be thinking about what are they interested in, but also what's important to them in terms of what does their life look like, and then also what skills do they have, or what skills could they be predisposed to develop well. We do some of this with a program called Major Clarity, and we've had some lessons this year through Freeman Focus, because they're trying to get students to explore all aspects of career exploration so that they can appropriately plan for the college process. Other things to consider are their ambitions and goals. What do they really want to do long term? What achievements have they already accomplished? And then what are their academic strengths? What would be areas they would want to continue studying and would be good at? What are they personally interested in? And what are some of those unique talents? There's a lot that goes into this college search process because there are academics at every school, and that is an important part of it, but it is a whole college experience. And there's a lot more to a school than what programs do they offer. So how well your student fits at that school and is going to be successful and happy is influenced by a lot of factors. Now, there are two main types of colleges when we talk with students. We talk about four-year colleges, which offer bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees. This is a really well-rounded college experience that includes an academic area of study, but then also often includes living on campus or a lot of extracurricular activities. The tuition kind of varies widely depending on if it's public or private, and then where it is versus where you live, and has a decent amount of admissions requirements, including that transcript, possible SAT, ACT scores, extracurricular activities, letters of recommendation, etc. There are also two-year colleges that offer associate's degrees, and then some like career education certificates. This is a really great way to ease into college and to take college classes for credit. And then in the state of Virginia, every single public four-year Virginia institution has an admissions agreement with our two-year colleges throughout the state to guarantee admissions as long as the student meets certain GPA requirements and certain course requirements. So if a student goes to Reynolds for 2 years, takes the appropriate classes, gets the appropriate grades, they can automatically transfer into any public four-year school in Virginia, finish out their 4 years there, and then receive a degree from that school that never says anything about where they spent the first 2 years of college. So this can be really great, both for saving money because tuition is significantly less expensive, or if a student wants to attend a four-year school that maybe their high school education doesn't quite prepare them for being admitted or being successful right at the beginning. So two-year colleges can be a really great opportunity for students who don't necessarily want a four-year degree or who want to transfer, save some money, go to a specific school later on. Admissions is very straightforward. You just need to graduate from high school. Now, when a student is selecting the colleges they want to apply to, there are a lot of priorities. So what's important to that student? Do they have a degree or major program specifically that they already know they're interested in? What is the location? Are they okay driving 6 hours to get to school, or do they want to be closer to home? What are the academics like? How big is it? If a student needs that really personal one-on-one interaction with their teacher or their professor in order to be successful or feel comfortable asking for help, a huge school that has, those auditorium style classes may not necessarily be the best fit. You also want to be looking at that campus as somebody who cannot stand cold weather. Going somewhere up north would be awful. And so there's a lot to a college, including where it is and what the campus looks like and how that functions. Social life. Some students know already they want to rush a Greek life fraternity or sorority. And some schools have that and some don't. So that social piece, I want to do an intramural sport. Does every college doesn't offer everything. So looking at more than just the academics is important. And then of course the total cost, including aid, paying for college can be extremely expensive. And so what kind of financial aid packages does a school offer? And what is their overall price? Not sure where to start because there are a lot of options in the state of Virginia and really across the country. College Board and ACT both have some great resources to explore some colleges. College Board has a program called Big Future, and so you can sort and search every single college in the U.S. By location, by majors they offer, by size, by selectiveness and admissions, and that can help you a student narrow down where they might want to start looking. If a student knows for sure they're interested in staying in Virginia, there's a really great website to sort colleges specifically in Virginia. Obviously, that you can pause this presentation and copy this, but also the PowerPoint is uploaded on the school counseling website, so you could go in and click these links at any time if you need to. There are a lot of campuses that still offer virtual tours. And then the National Association for College Admissions Counseling has some great resources too, as does CAPEX. And so these are all some really great resources for students to start exploring colleges and figuring out what they might be interested in or looking for in a school. There are a lot of virtual options. So uvisit.com offers 160-degree guided virtual tours of many campuses. So, even without COVID, if you want to visit, your student wants to visit somewhere in Arizona and flying out there is just not in the cards, this can be a great way to tour colleges if you cannot physically be there. A lot of colleges are still doing open houses and office hours for drop-in and virtual meetings. So just, check out their website, or if you have specific questions, you can always call the admissions office and ask if there are any virtual sessions coming up. This is also something that students can do well before junior year. Just kind of getting a look around, getting a feel for colleges, figuring out what is important to them can be really helpful. So this is not something that needs to wait by any means. So what are colleges looking for? I know we talked about this a lot in the GPA game, but we're going to be covering all of the aspects of a college application. So I'm going to pause this for a moment and give you a chance to rank from 1 to 16 what you think are the most important to least important aspects of a college application. So what are the top things the college is looking at and gives weight to, and what are the not so important ones? If you need some more time or you want to talk about this a little bit more before moving on, you are certainly welcome to pause the video. But we are going to go ahead and talk about what colleges say. In 2018-19 school year, NACAC sent an admissions survey to a lot of colleges to get their feedback. And so what they said was the number one factor in their admissions college decisions was grades in all courses. So that was considered considerably important. Now, the number two was grades in college prep courses. College prep does not mean what it does in Henrico County for college prep versus honors or advanced placement. College prep means those core content classes, so English, history, math, science, world language, for example. So they consider those almost as equally as grades in all courses. The strength of curriculum we talked about earlier was considerably important. Now, the admission test scores is listed as number 4 on here, but obviously this is pre-COVID. So many schools are now test optional, and that truly does mean test optional. Not submitting SAT or ACT scores is not a hindrance to a college application if that college has said they are test optional. So if your student takes them and doesn't do well, it is perfectly fine not to send them. I tell my students that if submitting your admission test scores is a helpful part of your application, go ahead and send it. If it's not, don't. It's fine. Part of the test optional mentality is this, is that obviously we are still living in a pandemic, and students' abilities to prepare and actually take these tests has been significantly reduced. So this is listed as number 4 right here, but obviously this was pre-COVID. So I have a feeling when this survey is sent out again that is going to drastically change. Number 5, the essay or writing sample. So this is super, super important, and we're actually going to talk about this on the next slide, but that essay is incredibly important. And then, listed right up there is that counselor and teacher recommendation. Those are important. Colleges do read them. So helping your school counselor and your teachers write as great as recommendations as possible is really, really important, because they really do have an impact on how a college perceives you in that application process. So what's important about this is that grades and the strength in your schedule are what college admission counselors are considering most important when evaluating an applicant. That absolutely means you should not be taking it easy your senior year. You want to show that you are willing to work hard and be successful no matter what every year. Similarly, that essay or writing sample is the most important non-academic piece of the application. You should be completing multiple drafts of this essay. It's to your advantage to submit anything that's considered optional, and then have a parent, a teacher, a counselor read it before you submit it. This is also, once we get to the college application time, the last thing that a student has active control over. Grades are set, transcripts are final. You've picked your classes for senior year. You've done the sports, you've done the clubs. The last 3 years are over. You can't change them. This is the last really significant piece that a student has the ability to change and have control over in that application process. So taking it seriously, spending time on it is really, really important. Now, briefly, for those college admissions tests, there is the ACT and the SAT. They're a little bit different and also a little bit the same. Testing during a pandemic is obviously very different. Many colleges are test optional. Some have committed to be test optional and are going year by year, and some have said, at least the next 5 years at minimum will be test optional. And so you're really going to have to look up each school that your student is considering applying to and have them evaluate, is this going to be important to them? Do I need to take it? Generally, we advise for students to take both the SAT and the ACT once in junior spring. And then students generally walk away from one of them feeling like they did better or more comfortable with it, or their score is higher. And so we tell them to study for that one. For example, that if you did better on the ACT and that wasn't as challenging for you, study the ACT over the summer, prep for that, and retake it, in August before senior year starts. There really is no difference between SAT and ACT. If a student does better on one over the other, you pursue that one. The colleges do not prefer one over the other. Now, some next steps for students. We do have some breakdowns by grade level, because what you should be doing next to prepare for college admissions really depends on where you are in high school. So some top tips for parents: help your student understand the college search process. There are a lot of schools in the state of Virginia and across the country, and so students can often get very overwhelmed and don't even know where to start. They are obviously always welcome to reach out to their school counselor for some direction and help. They can also listen to this presentation, but starting with some of those websites like Big Future on College Board and CapEx, or just doing some local tours can be really helpful. We do have VCU, University of Richmond, and Randolph-Macon all within the very immediate area. And even if your student isn't interested in any of those schools, they are all extremely different in terms of size, public versus private. And so it can be a good way, doing an official tour at each of those schools can be a really great way for a student to get a feel for, okay, what am I even looking for in a school? Do I want something big? Do I want an open campus? It doesn't matter if they're interested in those schools. It can help figure out what are the priorities they are looking for. Be realistic and non-judgmental. Students are constantly comparing themselves to their peers and their peers' perception anyway. And so college admissions can be rough. It's extremely stressful. And so, being kind with your student and allowing them to really direct this process? What are they interested in? That next one, be in the back seat, not the driver of this college search process. I know a lot of parents tend to feel that their students are not on top of it or are not doing what they need to do to get there. But a student really has to drive this. If they cannot navigate or do the college admissions process and complete it all the way through, that's a little bit concerning in terms of, whether or not they're prepared for college and being able to register and doing all the things on their own, because you won't be there. And so this is a great way for you to support them in this process and not drive it. Be open to dialogue with them and responsive to questions. So, even if it wasn't what you wanted or what you preferred or maybe what you wanted for them, they really have to explore this. This is a major life decision. And so doing what is best for them is really important. Please, please, please be aware of deadlines and fees due. Every college will have different application deadlines and fees that are due, and scholarship applications are due at different time than admissions applications. And so just know that there's a lot. Create a spreadsheet, take notes, keep it all together. You shouldn't have to remember it all the time, but please look into everything. Know that things have changed since your college days. Things have changed since my college days. It is very different now. And so what worked, many years ago may not have any application anymore. So please rely on the experts in this field, which includes your school counselor. We do this every year. We have many seniors every year that we're walking through this process. We go to the professional development. We talk with the college admissions counselors. Please rely on us and the colleges you're speaking to help your student navigate this as well. Don't necessarily overemphasize your own alma maters. That might be a great fit for your student and they might be on board, but they may not. And they may not be super willing to tell that to you if you have been a hardcore Notre Dame fan your whole life. And so just remember that they need to find the school that's the best fit for them. Please avoid comparing your student with others and those cul-de-sac conversations. Every student is different. Every student has different situations. Comparing them, your student's doing it anyway in their brain, and it does not feel good. So please don't compare them to their peers or their older siblings. It's not helpful. And those cul-de-sac conversations, I know, if you have a friend whose senior graduated last year and this is what worked for them, again, every student's different. Things change every year. Virginia Tech's college application process has changed so drastically from year to year, just in the last 4 years alone, that it almost takes a whole new training from them to figure out what's going on. And so, parents, unless they work in college admissions, really just have the perspective of what happened with their student, and that can be kind of limiting. So trust your student school counselor and let your student kind of navigate this with your support. Number 9, please pace yourself. This is a marathon. It is not a sprint. It is a long process, and it gets increasingly more stressful. So we do have some resources that I'm going to show in a minute of things to be doing each year. So just, every couple of months, sit down, have some conversations, look at some stuff online, schedule a tour or two if that's appropriate. Just remember that this can be a long process and you don't have to do it all at once, and you can't, and that's okay. Lastly, please celebrate those successes. If a student gets into one of the schools that they felt they were sure, one of those safety schools, celebrate that anyway. That's still, having a safety school is a big accomplishment. So every school that your student might get into, every award, just make sure that they know you are proud of them, and that even if it's something small, if they worked for it, if they put effort forth, it's important. You never know where that's going to lead. A student may end up going to their safety school because they find out it has a specific kind of program they're really interested in. But if they think back and no one really cared that got in, that kind of can leave a bad taste in the mouth. So celebrate every success that comes along. So for juniors, some next steps: stay focused on those academics. Do not lighten your academic load for senior year. The course selection process is happening right now. And so make sure you're meeting with your school counselor and picking classes for next year, and do not lighten that academic load. Stay involved in your school activities. and just make sure you're staying the consistent student you have been for the last couple of years. Prepare for and register for the ACT and SAT test if that's something that you think you're going to be doing. And then if you are in AP classes, make sure you're registering for those tests as well if that's appropriate for you. In terms of college exploration, you can be exploring colleges online. Visit if you can, meet with college representatives. We have college representatives that come to school all the time during lunch or in the during Freeman Focus, depending on the schedule going on that day. So please look out on Schoology for days that college reps are coming and talk with them when they're here, learn more about schools. Attend those college fairs, and then update your activity sheet so that you don't forget anything that's happening along the way. Create that college planning document. So here's a little sample, a list of all schools somebody might be considering, where they are, how far away they are, how big it is, and then, those priorities for each student. If athletics are important, tracking that. If they have the major you want of psychology, tracking that. How expensive is it? What is the acceptance rate? Whatever is going to be a priority for you and your student, add that as a column and then track that information to help narrow down, where a student might be interested in applying. Next up, for some freshmen and sophomores, remember that classes matter every year. Focus on those academics. Freshman year is typically the easiest year, and so many students look back and say, man, I wish I had taken that more seriously. I could have bumped up my GPA some if I had just tried a little bit harder in that freshman year PE class. It wasn't hard. I just needed to try a little harder. Make sure a student, continues taking the most challenging courses in which a student can be successful and stay healthy. So taking the most rigorous possible courses is only helpful if a student can do well in them and function well. That college application, the grades are important and the strength of curriculum is important, but if all your student can handle is classwork all the time and homework all the time, they're not going to have time for anything else. And that's not only not good for them and their mental well-being, but it's also just not going to look great on the college application anyway. So finding that balance is really important. Explore different elective options, getting involved in school, and look for leadership opportunities. Anything that you can do to show that, again, you are a positive impact on your school and your community. How can you demonstrate it? Begin an activity sheet now in order to track awards you get, recognitions you receive, clubs you're involved in, volunteer service you do. It's really hard to remember all of this when you're a senior. So if you start one freshman year and then just update it like every 6 months, that can be really, really helpful. I have students every year who email me to ask if if they won any awards their first 2 years, and I don't know, I can't keep track of it for every student. So it's so much easier if you just update it yourself routinely. Standardized testing for freshmen and sophomores comes in the form of the PSAT. All 10th graders automatically take it in October, and then it's also optional in the 11th grade. Students just have to register and pay the fee. The last couple of years, we've also offered the PSAT to 9th graders. I'm not sure if that's going to continue in the future, but certainly 10th and 11th graders have the opportunity to take it. It's offered in October every year. When you begin the SAT and ACT testing, it's going to vary based on the student because it really depends on what math you're in and how prepared you'll be at that point. So if you have questions or concerns about this, please just email the school counselor or reach out to them for some guidance. A big important part of those SAT, ACTs is preparing. So Khan Academy, which I'm sure your student is familiar with, you can link your Khan Academy account with your College Board account after receiving PSAT results. And then Khan Academy will give you free, individualized, personal tutoring based on how you did on the PSAT. And so students can use this. It is free. It is research-based effective. Khan Academy is the best way for free to prepare for the SAT. And it really does use your PSAT results so you can plan. In terms of exploration, freshmen and sophomores can also be talking with those college representatives that come visit at lunch. They can also be using Big Future and searching colleges and kind of tracking what they might be interested in, and also assessing their interests and values. We have some really great resources in school counseling, some of which we use in our lessons that we've already done. But if your student wants to dig kind of deeper into this, please just reach out to your counselor and we're happy to send some of our stuff along. For help with financial aid and scholarships, we do have a GRASP advisor. This is a financial aid counselor. Ms. Metcalf is our advisor this year. She's at Freeman every Tuesday. This is mostly for our juniors, but you're also welcome to reach out to her for any additional help that you need. She responds with phone calls, emails, can set up meetings when she's here on Tuesdays. Ms. Metcalf is a really great resource for navigating financial aid scholarships and paying for college. Some additional resources that could be helpful. There's a book called Opportunities that is specific for the state of Virginia. It is a guide to applying to college and financial aid. The Opportunities book is fantastic. I have hard copies. I give it out to students all the time. It's really, really, really helpful. Has a lot of information about Virginia colleges and paying for colleges. Freeman also has a scholarship newsletter that's updated every 2 weeks on the All Things DSF website. It is specific to seniors, but that is something that you can kind of scroll through now if you just want to kind of get a feel for what's out there. It is updated throughout the year, so something that has a March deadline is not going to be posted in September. That's why we recommend students check back frequently. I know I've plugged it a couple times, but the College Board Big Future College Search is a great way to explore the colleges in America. And again, this PowerPoint itself is posted online, and so you can click all of these links. We also have, an info sheet that you can use for college exploration, an activities list template so that your student can start creating one, and then a kind of a template that some students use for their college application tracker so they can, keep all of this information organized. If you have questions, you're welcome to reach out to your students' school counselors. School counselors are assigned by last name, and so your student's last name will determine their school counselor, and you're welcome to email them. We are meeting with students between January 18th and February 22nd, and so we are quite busy during that time because we meet one-on-one with all of our students. So if you're watching this during that time and you reach out with questions, just know there might be a little bit of a delay in hearing back because we are meeting one-on-one with every single one of our students to plan for courses for the next year. But otherwise, please let us know if you need anything. I hope this has been helpful. It's been great having you. Have a good rest of your day wherever you are.